A very good afternoon. The world needs science, and the science needs women and girls. Women have led groundbreaking research into public health, vaccines, treatments, and innovative technology, and been on the front lines of COVID-19 response as scientists, healthcare workers, and more. Yet, the gender gap in science and technology holds women back. While 70% of the health and the social care workers are women, they are acknowledged less than their male counterparts. The COVID-19 pandemic is poised to widen the existing gender disparities, especially for women scientists at the early stages of their career, unless we act deliberately to keep women in the career pipelines in STEM. It's more important than ever to recognize women's contributions in science and reduce the gap in science. A warm welcome to you all to the conversation series with Frontline Indian Women Warriors presented by Vigyan Prasad. With this conversation series, Gender and Technology Communication Program of Vigyan Prasad wishes to reap this opportunity to let the world know the contribution of Indian women scientific community who have been at the forefront in India's war against the global pandemic. Today, we are celebrating the 6th International Day of Women and Girls in Science, which has been initiated by United Nations to laud the women scientists at the forefront of the fight against COVID-19. Vigyan Prasad, an autonomous organization of the Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, is engaged in large-scale science communication, popularization, and extension activities in the country. And we'd like to mention that Vigyan Prasad has utilized all the digital media, social media platforms exponentially during these critical times and raised awareness and reached out to hundreds of science communicators and lakhs of people during to create awareness about the whole COVID-19, the scientific efforts and the scientific inputs. We also have been covering all the science news on the subject through our COVID-19 newsletter to consolidate all the knowledge and the facts regarding the outbreak. And the newsletter covers news and developments from various governmental and private organizations. And this is being sent and been read by more than 250 scientific institutions and research labs in the country. To mark this year's celebration of the International Day of Women and Girls in Science, today's program is dedicated to all the frontline Indian women warriors. We are honored that some of their representatives of the community are with us today. They will share their experiences, their insights, stories, and learning during the crucial times. Our first guest in this series is Dr. Sanghamitra Pati, Director of Regional Medical Research Center at Bhubaneswar, who have led the fight against the COVID and mitigating COVID in the state of Orissa, and carries along with her extensive research experience on public health, education, and awareness. Dr. Pati has focused on the prevention of chronic diseases and health management in primary care settings. Her work has both received her support and accolades at the national and international level. A warm welcome to you, ma'am, and we are privileged to have with you us today. We'll now start with a question-answer, a conversation with you through some question-answer series. To begin with, ma'am, in the tune with this year's theme of women scientists at the forefront of fight against COVID, can you tell our audience about your role in the fight against this pandemic?
So first of all, again, a warm thank you, acknowledging me as a frontline COVID-19 warrior. In fact, I consider it as a great privilege, pride, and honor to be counted among the COVID-19 warriors, because nothing is more fulfilling than to work for your own people and your own country at the time of need. And wish you all and your colleagues and all the people, all the young girls particularly around there, a very happy, healthy, and a productive International Day of Women and Girls in Science. as you rightly told, women have contributed, particularly to this COVID-19 pandemic, immensely. And what I really find the coincidence between managing COVID-19 pandemic and women is the ability to multitask. COVID-19 pandemic required a multifaceted, a multi-sectoral, and a multi-pronged strategy. And being women, somehow we have been gifted with that kind of skills to manage multiple things at one time, to bring in coordination between multiple departments on a synchrony. And third thing is that to motivate the team for a harmonized teamwork. And being a woman scientist, and of course I was leading the institute, and I will just give a brief, kind of introduction how we started. Our Regional Medical Research Center at Bhubaneswar, it is one of the regional VRDL, that is Virus Research Diagnostic Lab. In fact, it was established when the H1N1 pandemic had started. So that was the occasion. And our regional VRDL was taking up all the other outbreak investigations as well. So when the COVID-19 pandemic, in fact, at that time it was called Corona. So when struck, and coincidentally, our DG ICMR had visited on 29 February, I remember it was a leap year. He had visited RMRC Bhubaneswar, and he was impressed to see the lab. Then he told why not, and the state government people had come, then he told why not RMRC Bhubaneswar to start the Corona testing. So at that time, our scientists, in fact, let me tell you, our VRDL is completely led by women. We have 4 women scientists in our VRDL, and including our technical staff and all. So it was kind of transiting to a novel virus, and we had to learn the training at NIV Pune, and then the work started. And as you asked me what have been my role, apart from this leading, most important was that supporting the state to strengthen its laboratory diagnosis, because we cannot cater to the laboratory diagnosis or the testing of COVID-19 alone. So we had to bring in labs together. So one, I would say, a major contribution has been supporting the state in developing a laboratory network roadmap, which is a very sustainable endeavor. So we started with one laboratory on March 7th, and now the state has got multiple RT-PCR laboratories, not only in all its medical colleges, but also district headquarter hospitals are doing RT-PCR. And we have also engaged other sectors than health, like DBT, and then HRD like ISER and other institutes, and at the same time private sector. So creating a laboratory roadmap or a network of laboratories is a very important step, so that we can do volumes of testing at one time. And second what was that seamless supply of kits and reagents. That was very important because the raw material is needed for COVID-19 testing. So first was infrastructure, that was laboratory strengthening. And second was providing the raw material or the kits and reagent. So RMRC Bhubaneswar was designated as a depot for Odisha and Chhattisgarh, so that the seamless supply of raw RT-PCR kits and RNA extraction kits and VTMs could be ensured. And we are also supporting the state medical corporation in selecting and kind of what kind of reagent and kits would be required. And third, very important, was mentoring and troubleshooting of the HR who are employed in the lab, because it was a new virus, they were having a problem so we had to constantly engage with all the laboratory personnel to see that their queries are addressed and they can continue with testing. And fourth and very important was quality assurance. We had to do the assurance that whatever we were testing were right and there are no fallacies. And fifth is very important, uploading the data and kind of making the statistics available also. What is the number of tests done today, how many are positive. And fifth is very important, is coordination with the state and as well ICMR headquarters. So, and once the pandemic started little declining, we also undertook sero survey, because you must be aware of looking at the antibody response, the exposure to SARS-CoV-2. So along with, in parallel with testing, we also simultaneously conducted sero survey to know what percentage of our population have been exposed to SARS-CoV-2. And this sero survey we do repeatedly in Odisha, Jharkhand and Chhattisgarh. And these findings of the sero survey could provide a very strong indication for the state that where they are moving to. So I would consider sero survey is one of the most important. And fifth, we have developed a couple of cost effective or affordable technology like saliva. Can we use saliva in place of nasal or nasopharyngeal swab? So that have already been published. So can we have some alternate methods like pooling? So there are many things, many novel techniques, we kind of adaptive strategy we try to adopt so as to respond to the need of the hour.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. And now that you have really taken a lead role in creating a roadmap for the state of Orissa, and also you said you've helped in building the infrastructure as well as and all the testing, creating labs, testing labs, and the quality assurance monitoring. I just would like to know, and having worked so many years in public health, how do you foresee that public health can be made more robust to tackle future endemic crises? So are we geared to handle the future endemic crisis?
In fact, the COVID-19 pandemic has demonstrated, in fact, reiterated and reinforced the ever increasing role of public health. Public health is a means as well as the tool to address any pandemic or disasters. So public health research in terms of not only surveillance, but also monitoring the progression of any kind of disease. And third thing is that how can we find out affordable technologies? And fourth thing is that our health system strengthening should go hand in hand with evidence-based research. So how can research always provide inputs for health system strengthening so that a pandemic resilient and a responsive system always is in position to address not only COVID-19, but any such future public health catastrophe. So I foresee the role of epidemiology, the role of laboratories, the role of clinicians, and of course, the role of statistics as well as social scientists. So basically, I see is that a teamwork where everyone has got a role to play in public health. And as you rightly pointed out, health communication and risk communication particularly, because you might have noticed, and thanks to you for promoting the COVID-19 literacy through social media and different, because when it comes from an authentic source, from a public source, people have much more trust and people respond to the messages very favorably. So health communication is something we must consider also as an integral part of when we are developing our public health system.
Yeah. And do you have any specific message for risk communication on public health?
I mean, my suggestion would be for risk communication is that we have to be cautious but not panic. And second thing is that believe in evidence, because there is always a saying that only in God we believe, for all others we must have data. So whatever messages come, if they're based on evidence, we must believe that. And risk communication should be alerting people for becoming more proactive rather than being reactive or kind of getting panicked. So we have to strike a judicious balance between how do we communicate risk at the same not making them too panic. So it's a very, I would say, requires health communication expertise so that we convey the message without creating undue panic, but at the same time, no complacence. So careful and complacence should, I mean, it should be careful. People should be careful. At the same time, they can't afford to be complacent.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Coming back to the COVID disease, COVID as disease and mitigating the pandemic, how do you correlate comorbidity and multimorbidity with COVID? Can you also explain both these terms for the benefit of our general viewers, ma'am?
Yeah, thank you, because that is something very close to my heart, and COVID-19 has also shown this how comorbidity, because you might have, you must be aware, since you are at the forefront of health communication, that those who have got comorbid conditions, they were asked to be more careful. So now, since I have got an opportunity to explain, so people sometimes confuse between comorbidity and multimorbidity. Comorbidity is the coexisting condition given an index condition. For example, if someone has got diabetes, what are the other conditions he has, then it becomes comorbidity. So we give importance or centrality to a particular condition in comorbidity. But multimorbidity is a more patient-oriented approach. It does not say the person with diabetes has got this, this, and this. Rather, it says this particular person or individual or patient has this, this, this. So when a person or individual has got 2 or more chronic conditions, so it's 2 or more, the number, then we call it multimorbidity. And multimorbidity always looks at the patient, not at the disease. So it's a holistic model of giving care, and it does not give centrality to a particular condition, rather than goes where the patient reports is more difficult. I mean, for example, a person is having diabetes, but at the same time he has got arthritis. But if arthritis is causing more problem, then multimorbidity approach gives more importance to that problem, rather than since index disease is diabetes. So it's basically a patient-centric approach and a holistic care model.
Okay.
And as you asked me, what is the role of comorbidity and multimorbidity? There is data, ample evidence which shows that people who have got one condition and versus people who have got 2 or more conditions, those who have got multimorbidity, they have got disproportionately higher risk of adverse outcomes compared to those who have no comorbidity or a single morbidity. So in that way, because what happens, the treatment for 2 conditions sometimes conflict. And sometimes the treatment also may conflict with the management of COVID-19 or exaggerate to the COVID-19 outcomes. So that is the reason comorbidity and multimorbidity have brought back into focus while managing COVID-19.
Okay, there is a link being established between clinical illness with previous corona infection in corona variants. So this has created a fear psychosis in the community, and this at times creates. So can you please enlighten us on the psychological vaccine for corona variants? So how to stop this fear psychosis among the people who have been infected with corona?
Yeah, that reminds me of the very famous quote of Alchemist, that the fear of suffering is worse than the suffering itself. So many times COVID-19 people were so panicked that there was a lot of problems in taking the right action. And so as you told, of course, people do feel that the proceeding or the following clinical illnesses could be due to COVID-19 or can be consequences of COVID-19. But my suggestion would be assurance. And second is that establishing any kind of causality, because we need evidence that this is due to COVID-19. Sometimes what happens is that trauma or that feeling of getting COVID-19 continues for a person more longer compared to others. And in that case, we have to think of resilience building strategies. What kind of counseling and what kind of resilience building strategies we can think of in parallel or at the time of pandemic, where the health communication again comes into play along with the mental health, because physical and mental health you cannot segregate. They are the part of the whole body. So this body-mind approach go together. So we have to think of adequate assurance. Then we have to make them believe in the evidence. What does the evidence say? And third thing is that proper counsel, I would say adequate counseling, and also building some kind of resilience building strategies or communications.
Okay. Thank you. That's very clear and understandable. Ma'am, coming back to the science, the contribution of women in science and science in India, what are the areas that you think science in India should focus on in light of last year's pandemic and all our, experience with the new normal and the way how we strategize our things, the entire research and development? What are the areas that you think science in India should focus on?
Yes, science have to focus first of all that how we are prepared for the new normal and how we go along with the new normal, and this new normal may become another new normal maybe later. And secondly, this pandemic has also exposed a lot of avenues for research, like thinking of urban space, thinking of urban design, thinking of personal safety, thinking of self-care. Then whether can we use contactless healthcare? Can we use digital literacy for improvement for self-empowerment or health literacy? So digital literacy and health literacy, can they go hand in hand? Then how can we take care of the geriatric people or the vulnerable people at such pandemic. So science, in fact, I feel next years are going to be the years of science only, because so many avenues, so many sectors. Every day I find, millions of research questions or avenues for young girls and women to take it up. How can we think of a contactless death? Or you can just be dreaming and you can be doing it. And science, since this year has taught us that we have to focus, which has already been done, health and biomedical research, of course, but bringing in other partners, because medicine or medical or health is a subject which has got a lot of non-medical component, like awareness related to education, like infrastructure, like water and sanitation. So how can science have multi-pronged research at the same time trying for a made in India or indigenous research, promoting in-house talent, then promoting translational research, then promoting the whole cycle of conceptualization to commercialization. People that should be ready to take the technology up. Otherwise, young scientists should get motivated.
Okay, my next question to you would be like, what would you do or have done differently to make your center and labs more welcoming for women in science?
Last 4 years, I have been seeing more and more women are joining doctoral and postdoctoral programs. And as I told you already, our VRDL is entirely managed by women, and ICMR is also leading because many of our institutes have women leaders. And how I want to do, basically, whenever anyone asks me, I said, science is the job for you. Nothing could be more fulfilling than science. Every day you ask yourself questions, and it has got the enormous power to solve the unsolved and answer your mysteries. And you never get bored with science. So I tell all the young girls that there is something you can think of as your life partner is science, because you will never get bored with science. Every day is a learning day, and I look forward every day and tomorrow also, so that what I can do. And coming how I can make it more, basically we do have all women friendly, then how can we have women specific maybe schemes and women specific calls for proposal, then women health issues, like should women researchers contributing to women oriented health issues, or then third thing we can think of promoting this or disseminating how women scientists have performed over a period of last decade and this COVID-19 pandemic, so that the young girls get motivated, and saying them that science is for everyone, and science is the greatest level of in terms of equity and in terms of empowerment.
Absolutely. But still, ma'am, just one question which I would like to know from you, and we wish to know from you, is that were there any challenges that you have faced? Because scientists have shared over the past year, they face some challenges working in the lab, working from home, going to the field for their research data, collection of data. So I'm sure you also had your share of some challenges while mitigating the pandemic. So what helped you to get through them?
Yes, as you told, it was a challenging time for each one of us, because for the first time a pandemic affected life, lifestyle and livelihood. So it was for everybody. And for us, in fact, it was day and night work, because we took the first half day evening leave on Diwali. So since March 7, we have been working incessantly. So what we tried to do is that, there was definitely a period, there was initial some apprehension, not as a lab scientist, but as a general person also. Because they have a family, they have to go back to the family. So there were the challenges, like you are dealing with a virus which is not known, novel coronavirus. So that was initial apprehension, but slowly we knew the virus, and we knew that it is something which we can handle and something which we can really work on. And second was keeping the motivation going on for a long time, because it's continued for a long time, fight against COVID-19. So keeping the motivation level of all your team members was kind of I won't say challenging, but we did it. And third thing, what is that I feel that if you have got your superiors' support and guidance, and also the trust people have in you, and the confidence the state has also reposed in you. What it made us that it kind of made us more stronger in terms of believing in ourselves, and the expectation we saw that people are having from us, it just made us going. I mean, to be honestly, we just kept, we didn't think anything, we just followed that mission mode.
Yeah. So it was a mission mode, and we all worked on war foot to
Yes,
tackle this challenge.
exactly.
To conclude, ma'am, what is your message to motivate the aspiring women researchers and the early career women scientists, and that would really inspire them to get going?
Okay, to be honest, my career has been a little tortuous. Initially, I decided to be a physician, and then I became a laboratory scientist. Then I moved to public health researcher, and now I am here. So my suggestion to all the young girls and young women, in fact, everyone is young when he or she is in science, is that follow your passion. I mean, don't take science as a profession. If you take science as your passion, then I'm sure you will never get bored and you will give 100% to it, because you have to love our job. So do what your heart says to you and follow your dreams, because I would again quote Alchemist, when you really want something, whole universe conspires in achieving you the same. So if you have interest in your own competence and have confidence in you, then just go and pursue your dreams. Nothing should let you down, nothing should stop you. You may get initial hiccups, you may get initial teething problem, but that should not deter you from pursuing your goals. Perseverance and passion are the keys.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It was really pleasure interacting with you, and you gave us your time and shared your experiences and insights. And I think it's right that the perseverance and the women in the women and the with the guts that they showed, the I mean to combat, to fight against the COVID-19 has been remarkable. We all salute you. We all salute the women scientists. And this is occasion, I think we need to give recognition to the cause and to the contribution of all the women that they have made at the different levels, in mitigating and in combating the disease. Thank you so much. And we
And I also thank you on behalf of my entire team of RMRC, because they are not here, but it would not have been possible without their support. I acknowledge each one of them, because as I always say that managing COVID-19 pandemic has been entirely a teamwork. Only thing that someone has to lead from the front, but everyone was in the game. I mean, everyone was in that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we acknowledge that, your recognition. And thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.